Yeah, right. Let's start every Zoom with a giggle. We're back. Page 193. Chovas Hatalmidim. We're continuing to talk about how a person can get themselves fired up because that is our responsibility to elevate ourselves and how to get ourselves going. And I think the best is the theme, the best thing that we can possibly do is use our own personal kocho to get ourselves lit up, right? When you are let's say spiritually dependent or we're all spiritually dependent, inspirationally dependent, where it's like I need to not even to say that I need to generate my own chizuk, but like I need someone else to come and sweep me up off my feet and give me the chizuk that I need versus me figuring out how to do it on my own. Hashem gave us all the abilities and all of the strength. We have seichel, we have strength, vigor, we have our own agency to be able to figure those things out for ourselves. And I think that that is the ikr shebe ikr. There's nothing more valuable than that. The greatest asset that you have in your life is you. And when it comes to your own spiritual pursuit, you can sit around pointing fingers, and those people will sit around pointing fingers all day about what they don't have, what they do have, whatever it is. You're not going to escape that. Admei Avasrim. You're going to sit there and say, Hashem said, I made you, and you have the ability to know yourself and get yourself going, light your own fire. That's it. So here we go. We're on page 193. But this is only if you work many times to wake up your soul and don't sleep away the 70 years of your life with a heart of stone. So he says it right there. Whose job is it to wake up your soul? It is actually an avoda. If you are reliant and saying, hey, I need to get clocked, you need to learn how to clock yourself. You need to learn how to clock yourself. And again, that doesn't mean that like you give yourself a pep talk. Well, it could mean that, but it also means, as we've been saying time and time again, go to the place or go to the person or go do the thing that's going to help you get clocked. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for clocking yourself, setting yourself up for the clock, right? This childish stuff of coming on to a TJJ and allowing it to be done for you without you even realizing or whatever, fine. But when you take off your training wheels, you need to be the one, right? It says like this, wake yourself up, wake up your soul. Then you will eventually wake up on your own. You should also be aware that even the great and holy tzaddikim, may their merit protect us, angels of Hashem who elevated themselves and became closer to Him than we could ever imagine, made use at times of various tactics to rouse their pure and holy souls at the beginning of their avodah. They use the resources, right? It doesn't, again, because it doesn't mean that it just comes from within me. I don't feel it. All right, what are you going to do about it? That's the question. You don't feel it. You're feeling burnt out. You're feeling what are you going to do about it? I don't know. That's why I'm calling you. Oops. Okay, fine. But like the reality is the MS is like, yeah. He's saying even people who are tzaddikim on the highest level, people who you would never imagine ever needed a help or assistance to get themselves clocked, even they figured out certain tactics and things that they needed to do to awaken their soul. It's not always going to be because, wow, it's Chodesh Elul, it's Adar. Now I can get into the right mindset because the seasons Hashem set up the calendar year in the way that He did, right? They had tactics as well. Hopefully, he'll share some. For example, in a Sefer Beis Aaron, the holy Rav Aaron of Karlin writes that before the tzaddikim would daven, they would envision themselves lying in their graves and suffering, and then they would imagine someone approaching them and saying, get up, stand up and daven. It's more of a Litvish approach there, but hey, it seems from there that it writes that this is only necessary initially, for he states that the holy Rebbe Asher stimulated himself for 1 year, which implies no longer than that. This is the coolest part about spiritual growth, by the way. So when you get over that hump, a person can be struggling, and you're going to be struggling your whole life spiritually, but to be able to get to a certain place, let's say you're working on a certain mitzvah, or you need the chizuk, the motivation to like to no longer be fighting to do the mitzvah, but it becomes a part of you. I'm no longer trying to dress sneas anymore. I'm just modest, right? It's like when a girl gets over that hump where it's like, if I were to wear the clothing I used to wear in the past, I would be horrified. It makes me want to throw up. Now they're not trying to beat Sneas anymore. They are. They've gotten over that hump, right? So that's the really cool part about working and developing yourself. And then eventually over time, when you take on things and you work very, very hard, you get to a place where it becomes second nature. It becomes a part of you at that point. So this is a tactic. I don't know if this will work for us. I don't know if we look at the world in this way. Maybe we should, where it's like before I daven, it's like, oh my God, one day I will be laying in a grave, not having the ability to do this. Get up and daven now. Could be a bit morbid, intense, but listen, you got to do you. At that level, For the tzaddik, that works. We got to figure out what it is for us as well. It shouldn't be hard for a discerning person to realize how much one can invigorate his davening if he just paints this mental picture in strong hues. The same goes for you too, dear student, if at the beginning you use various tactics and work with them, and you reach greatness with Hashem's help to a greater extent than you imagined possible. From now on, we're at the top of page 195. This is the foundation of your free choice. Wake up, elevate, and bring yourself just a little bit closer to Kedusha. I wrote up a whole two-part class on this. It was a Gula education a few years ago. Maybe we'll bring it back next year. When we talk about free will, which we do plenty in NCSY, in TJJ, it is a baseline starting hashkafic topic. But when we talk about free will, almost every example we use, even Rav Akiva Tatz talks about when he talks about free will in chapter 1 of the Teenage Thinking Guide to Life, the examples that he uses: not beating up a woman violently and stealing her purse, not going into that non-kosher restaurant that you want. When we talk about free will, we are always focused on the restraint, choosing to not do bad, choosing to restrain yourself, restrain, not withstrain, restrain yourself from doing something bad. What about using your free will from going from a dormant state to going on offense? Not defensive free will, but offensive free will. I'm living and nothing's particularly wrong. I'm just coasting through life. I'm not having a eureka. I'm not feeling low, whatever it is. But I'm just stum. I'm living my life. I'm doing my day to day. Now, how about you tap into your free will and boom, make that random mincha on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Just like make that boom. You know what I mean? He's saying use your free will to increase kedusha in your life, not just to stay away. And I mean, this was a chiddush. The first time, I was like, wait a minute. Every time we think about free will, it's always about choosing to not do something wrong. How about choosing something to do something good when you weren't even feeling a challenge, when you weren't even being challenged on anything? Being like, listen, I woke up one day, I want to be a better person, I want to inspire. Boom, I'm just going to choose Kedusha. I'm going to choose to bring something powerful into my life. That's what Bechira is. Of course, you can choose to not do bad, but you could also choose to do good. Not in spite of the bad, because just stam. I want to increase Kedusha. There was something, there was one of these, like Marshalls, you have like these plaques that these random, like these wooden, like square things that I guess people put around their houses or whatever. I have one in my bathroom, you'll find them in like little tchotchkes. It was, when was the last time you did something for the first time? I think that's what it said. And I stopped and I was like, it's so interesting, right? Do we think about like how often am I going to try something new? I guess that's for the secular world, but for us, when was the last time you decided, for no other reason than I just want the Vegas with Hashem, I would just want to raise myself up, that I want to just find something, a piece of kedusha, just incorporate into my life and just wake myself up. I want to get, I'm not feeling uninspired. I just want to be inspired, right? As opposed to just waiting for the next Shabbaton or waiting for the next event or whatever it is. Do you guys understand that concept though? Because maybe I'm a dullard, but I think it's a brilliant concept. Using
Yeah,
your
I really
bechira,
like it.
your free will to go on the offense, not just always be on the defense. Because let's be real, every time when we talk about like growth in general, right? Everything we talk about is either stopping from doing something bad or doing something good in spite of the bad thing, as opposed to finding something random to just incorporate into my life because it's going to elevate me a little bit.
Avi, you know the I don't think you read it. You gave me this book when you had like the open house for like Sfarim and you're like take whatever you want. I was at your house and you told a bunch
Okay,
of us
sure.
like take whatever you want. And it's this book about the Amidah, whatever. And I was like thinking, like I was like, oh, like the day before, I was
Is it
like, oh,
Pathway
like
to Prayer?
no, it's three steps forward, something, three steps.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Is it a good book? My colleague wrote it
Yeah,
actually.
I like it. It's
I
really
just
good.
started reading
Whatever.
that actually.
I like whatever. I finished it and then I was like in the back it has like an Amida with like at the beginning of each thing it says like a line to think about whatever. I was like procrastinating like putting like the new things I learned in my story or whatever and I was like wait I could like make my Amida like ideal like with every I could just use this right now and like open it up and like say whatever and I was like why don't I just do that and I did and I was like oh wait free
There
will
you go. There you go.
free
Yeah,
will
you have
man.
you have free will. You can do it
Like I
at
could
any
use the
time.
book to daven from like into the same thing. And I was like, oh,
Mea chuz. Hadar, you unmuted. It's a rarity. So what were you saying?
She also was reading it. Yay, twins.
Is that what she said?
Oh no, she muted again. We lost her.
We lost her.
She
It was
said,
a
Sorry.
Ace Ruts on there.
I started reading that book actually, Three Steps Forward.
Cool.
It's really good.
It's very short. Like it's a very thin book.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a quickie. Like it's like
Yeah.
2 pages on each like
Yeah,
front.
he's yeah, he works for NCSY, lives in Central East.
You could tell. I'm
Oh yeah?
kidding. Like yeah, you
There's
reading,
a
you're like, yeah,
style to us, yeah.
yes, there is.
Okay, weiter here. So at this time of spiritual elevation, you will be able to look at your own smallness, your own smallness that you have become accustomed to. From within the prism of lofty, pure soul, you will be able to look at your laziness and the rest of your negative character traits and low thoughts, desires that you usually find yourself thinking and wanting, and you yourself will be ashamed of them. It's amazing. It's like you can muster yourself from that elevated perch. It's so much easier to look at your own flaws, right? So it's like I got something wrong I'm working on, and that's going to elevate me to bring myself higher. No, if I just choose to bring myself higher, in turn, I'll just turn around and look at the negatives about myself. And it's all encompassed. I think of that as when you take a step towards Hashem, Hashem takes a step towards you, right? If you make the effort to feel Hashem more in your life, he's just going to be more relevant in your life. And then things will start to click in other areas of your life, in your own growth and development. All because you were proactive and not reactive. You decided to take a step forward in Kedusha. You'll become upset with yourself and you will ask, here comes the beautiful Musser. Why do I lay around all day in a muddy pit, in a virtual laboratory of childishness and nonsense? From now on, I'm going to be a Jew, a servant of Hashem. I want to be a Jew. Hashem, I'm taking it upon myself to become your true servant. Think these thoughts, even say them aloud, time and after time, and with Hashem's help, they will be a great benefit to you. This is the working of the soul. It surrenders itself to the words that emanate strongly from the heart. A person can persuade other people through heartfelt words, so it goes without saying that he can persuade himself as long as his words are spoken at a time when he is elevated above himself. Do you guys realize the godless of what he just said? If you've ever been clocked by a speech or a moment where someone was speaking and you were just like, boom, right? It hits you. Is that a question or you're saying no, that happened to me?
It's a question about the last few words.
Yeah.
As long as his words are spoken at a time when he is elevated above himself, what does that mean?
Meaning that in your moment of being clocked,
Oh, okay.
right? When you're living your best life, when you're locked in and you're just like you and Hashem are just like this, you're like flying high, right? You can at that moment give yourself chizuk. At that moment, you can clock yourself and say, I'm done with that stuff. You know what I mean? Like again, I'm sure, I mean, at least I hope throughout your careers at NCSY that you've experienced a moment where you're like, that speech hit me. That speech changed me. That speech really got me good, right? In that moment, you felt a certain way, right? Now imagine when you're in that moment, now you're able to turn to yourself and give it to yourself, right? Give yourself that speech and just be like, I'm like done with this. You know what I mean? Like and this happened many times for myself as well. I was able to give myself the motivation that I needed because I was in a certain place, you know? That's how it gets you. I even remember before one Geula, it was amazing. I was prepping and I didn't have a story. So I wanted to bring out a certain point, but it would be more powerful with the story. So I made up a story, right? That typically like I would say 95% of my stories are true, but this was there was a guy type of story. It was like a mushal. And as I was pacing in front of my house formulating this mushal, I clocked myself. I got all like, oh my God. Started getting teary-eyed. It was like crazy. I'm like, I'm getting emotional over a story that I made up. That I made up. It was so crazy. But think about it like that. The next time you're in you're in this zone and you're feeling a certain way, right? That's the time when you're in your elevated state. You're feeling very high. That's the time to turn around and give yourself that speech. I'd be like, what are you doing? Are you ready? I did that too. Yeah, 100%. But like, don't miss it. How many kids on TJJ clocked? Whatever it was, whether it was Cocktail or Marta Machpelah or the Cave or whatever after a main event, whatever. They're in a certain zone and then they just like they experience the feeling and then they just move on. Versus in that moment, turn to yourself and say, from now on, this is who you're going to be. From now on, this is, and you know better. And then when you're feeling low, you can go back to that moment because you're like, wait a minute, I was the one who told myself that. I told myself I'm done being that. I'm going to start taking my Yiddishkeit, I'm going to take my Judaism and literally put it at the top of my priority list. Because it's at number 4 or 5, 6 right now. That's it. I'm done. I'm ready to actually step into the shoes of what I know in my brain I should be doing. I'm bumping it up the list. I'm putting it up there, you know? So that's what it is. This is such a lot of godless to this. The workings of the soul. It surrendered itself to words that emanate strongly from the heart. That's basically the definition of being clocked. The soul surrenders itself to the words that emanate strongly from the heart. A person can persuade other people through heartfelt words, as we know, so it goes without saying that he can persuade himself as well, as long as his words are spoken at a time when he's elevated above himself. Why? Because it's a catch-22. When can you spit fire? When you're feeling it, right? So it's hard. Like when you're feeling low, you can't pep talk yourself because your words are flat. You're not feeling it. You're not in the zone. But if you figure out a way to wake it up your soul, you figure out a tactic and the strategies to get yourself up to that zone where you're locked in and you're at the right music on in the car and you're in your feels, now it's time. Now it's time. Words from your heart, right? They say, "Davar min halev nichnas halev," that the words from the heart go into the heart. Yotze min halev. The words from the heart go into the heart because that's what the soul can connect to genuine words from the heart. Why can't you do that for yourself? You can and you should. You should. And that's the missed opportunity for those that don't. And we got to teach that for people that come back on yeshiva this year. Take when you're like clock, take a moment to yourself to go talk, just you and Hashem. Walk away from that experience for a second, you and Hashem. By the way, it's one of the reasons why in my life, one of my favorite moment of the summer is Marat Machpelah by far. Why? Because if you think about it, right? Because the kotel also, we kind of do this with the kotel, but there's a disconnect there. Because like the process of like walking down from the roof, getting to the kotel, it's a little bit of time, right? It could be like 15, 20 minutes before you actually get to the kotel, and you might have lost the moment at that point. In Marat Machpelah, you are like, you're in this weird zone, and then it's like just go daven right now to Hashem. You're standing in the cave of the Avos. And I've witnessed myself like, and there's those who like don't get it. Like they're standing there crying and they're like, I miss my mom. And it's like, yeah, and you also miss the opportunity. You're standing there like, oh, you're crying and you don't know why you're crying. You're just crying. Okay, great. But you came all this way to get to this point because now there's a Pesach, there's a door open to do something that can have tremendous meaning and value. You can concretize something so deep that will stay with you and be a moment that's a pivot in your entire life if you only knew and you know how to take advantage. So some do, some don't, but that's why there's yeshiva. All right, 195 towards the bottom. Simply by making a general resolution and deciding that you are going to be a Jew and a servant of Hashem is not enough, right? Because I just said it before. Like literally, if you're just not there, it's not there. It doesn't, then it's just words. Someone delivers a mid, speech at the wrong time. It's not going to hit the same way. At these moments of spirit, yeah, it's like comparable. The difference between like the Erev Shabbos davening speech on a Shabbaton and like the main event. Like they're not, they're both speeches, but one's just not it. At these moments of spiritual elevation, you should try to think about and repair the details of your negative character traits and the faults that you're aware of. What is the purpose of inspiration? To give you the strength to do that which you're not able to do without it. That's all it is. Right? I'm not strong enough to do X, Y, and Z. Great. That's why there is inspiration. That's the value of it, is to just help you walk through that door. The truth is that when a Jew is davening passionately, it is not the time for him to start making all kinds of calculations. He should neither take care of his he should neither take care of nor sully his hands with his faults. Rather, he should just daven and learn with enthusiasm. He should draw himself closer to Hashem, as it's written in the Svarim HaKadoshim. However, right after he finishes davening, even though the chazan's repetition is Shemona Esrei, or at times outside his davening, when he feels a spiritual awakening, he should make an effort to fix his negative character traits in detail. Halavai, that like during Chazaras Hashatz, we were like, it's hard to have a good davening. It's at least hard for me, but it's hard to like have a good davening. But when you do realize that it's an Eis Ratzon, you have an auspicious time right then and there to do something very powerful if you can get locked in. Just as one can only check for chametz by the light of the candle, so should you inspect and improve yourself when you have awakened spiritually, and a spark of kedusha has ignited within you that still burns. For example, if you had a bad temper, God forbid, do some self-reflection and ask yourself, do I really want to get angry and be cast away from Hashem? The Gemara says that one who is angry doesn't consider the Shekhinah to be important. Oof. And one who gets angry is as it's akin to him worshiping Avodah Zarah. So should I do such a revolting thing as getting angry? God forbid. Do I want to rebel against Hashem? God forbid. And the God of my soul, for whom I feel right here inside of me? I'm making a decision not. I am making a decision to not get angry from now on, and I take it upon myself wholeheartedly. Easier said than done, yes, but you get the concept, the general concept.
Wait,
Master of the
how
what?
does being angry mean that you're rebelling against Hashem? Like in what context?
Ooh, I
Here's
love
the
it.
Rambam, gotta pull up. Wedge bow.
Do you want to answer? Oh yeah, right. Short-lived, but nonetheless, still very good.
I was reading it on Shema.
The answer to your question is if you think about it, right? The idea of be like our mission here is to be Makabel Ol Malchus Shemayim. The Ol is like the yoke of heaven, meaning that like, you know what a yoke is? Animal, whatever. Okay, anyway.
Mhm.
Our job is basically to submit ourselves entirely to Hashem, giving ourselves entirely to Hashem, diminishing our ego and our own wants, and putting ourselves under the wing, the Kanfei Shechina, and that's it, right? Submissive to Hashem. The Havdil, the Muslims do a really good job at this, right? They dedicate, they devote their entire life, at least the ones who are, you know, high up there in their practice to God. And then we should ultimately as well. That's the idea of God. Now, when a person is angry or they lose their temper and they see red, you know, I think that's the clinical term. What are you doing? You're losing entire control entirely, meaning that now the anger is not just in control of you, the anger is your God. Because God loses his seat as you know, Melech
Yeah.
Malchei Amlachim, he's no longer the king. He's no longer he's no longer God. Now anger has replaced God. And therefore, you're not worshiping God anymore in that moment. You're worshiping anger. Anger has it. So it is not like, you don't get punished for doing Avodah Zarah, but it's like Avodah Zarah, meaning that that moment in anger, you're actually serving a foreign deity. You're serving a foreign God. Because anger is the thing that's calling the shots and telling you, and you're acting in line with it. You're doing things that are against the Torah. You're saying horrible things. You'll violate, vulgarity of speech, causing others harm, like whatever, like all that stuff, speaking rudely to your parents or whatever, all b'shem anger. So that's why it's considered that.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Master of the world, help me to maintain my resolve to not get angry, which is, of course, you always have to ask Hashem. Hashem is Me'ayin Yavo Ezri. He is the one who gives us our strength to be able to be successful in all of our growth. Similarly, impress these thoughts and decisions in your heart and your soul so that when something happens and you find yourself starting to get angry, you will remember both how you belittled the trait of anger and the decision that you made to refrain from getting angry again. Yeah, I always found it funny, but like it could be a cool tactic also. Those people that like air their dirty laundry on social media all the time, like everything they're doing, they're putting on like as their status. So like, like it's almost as if like you went public and said, from now on, I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, right? Now it's a little bit awkward because like now a week later when you're like, oh, I changed my mind, like the whole world knows that you took on that declaration. Now, there's like a level of accountability there. But what he's saying basically is that like if you care enough, you're holding yourself accountable. If in that moment you declare to yourself, I'm not going to do this anymore, what happens when you want to fall back into it again? There's an added level of shame. And I'm not talking about the negative shame. I'm talking about like a positive shame, like a positive stress, the type of shame where you look at yourself and you're just like, what's wrong with you? Not thinking low of yourself or putting yourself down, but looking at yourself and being like, what are you doing? You said you're not going to do that anymore. Why are you doing that still? Enough. Okay, good. I'm going to get back on the horse in a healthy way and in a healthy manner, right? You are going to hold yourself. You are adding accountability to your own self. The reason why people always fall back into the things they shouldn't do, or at least the number one reason, is because they don't take it as serious. They shrug it off. They go, ah, all my New Year's resolutions, okay, whatever, life is life. Dust is dust. And imagine you really held yourself accountable because you're with yourself all the time. No one else is watching over you in the same way like you are. Holding yourself accountable, it could go a very, very long way, right? Between you and God. How can you do this? And by the way, it's helpful even if you're going to fail, which you know you are, right? Because he used the words, which I think is a little intense for our generation. I take upon myself that I will not get angry from now on, right? Not realistic expectations, because a lot of times if I have an anger problem, it's not going to go away just because I made that declaration. But by making that declaration, taking upon yourself that you're not going to do it anymore, when you slip and fall, the way that you approach yourself is going to change. You're going to hold yourself more accountable. I made the commitment to do this, so why am I not holding to it again? And as I say all the time, you can't win a battle you don't know you're fighting. So if the best thing that could come out of that is just you remind yourself, hey, wait a minute, I said I'm fighting this battle from now on, as opposed to, oh, it's just a habit, whatever, didn't matter. And I think that's a huge win. This will help you regain control of yourself and calm down. That's the MS. That literally is the MS. That is self-actualization. When you're at the driver's seat, you are the one calling the shots and you have the power. You don't feel helpless anymore. And from this point on, when you feel yourself getting angry, your main job will be to stay strong, to remember and picture as starkly and vividly as possible the time when you were on a higher spiritual plane and you made a decision for yourself. This is the method you should follow for the rest of negative character traits that you find within yourself as well. 100%. You get up at a banquet, at an oneg, and you say, from here on out, I'm going to be this person. You can use that as the anchor to give yourself chizuk to go back to. As in, and kids are like this a lot. I'm pretty sure you guys are like this also, right? I remember the date and the time, the Shabbaton and the place that, you use that as an anchor because you always go back to that place. That moment will always give you chizuk. That place will always give you chizuk in your mind. And it serves as a place, as an anchor, I like to say, because you like to, when you go back and you're like, I remember that moment when I told myself I was going to da 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 da, right? The more serious and the more validity you give to that moment, the more power it's going to have to give you chizuk. You're setting yourself up for success. Throughout your life, you're putting markers and keys in place that is now going to allow you to grow, and you always have something to fall back on. It's really taking your training wheels off because for those people who are dependent on their advisors and they're dependent on which okay, that's good when you're young. But the goal is to take off that training wheels and be able to manage your own growth by yourself. And it doesn't mean not having a Rebbe and not getting chizuk. It means that you are the one calling the shots. You're putting yourself in the positions and managing the process yourself. It's no longer someone else's job. I don't need my advisor to chase me every single week because I'm struggling. It becomes your job. You make yourself into the driver's seat, and that is the best case scenario. That's what Hashem wants from you. That's what you are capable of as well, which is so, so important. Now, what's for Benny's house?
No, just one of the places that, is my anchor.
Oh, me and you?
What?
You're talking about me and you, post Tisha.
Yeah.
That'd be
By the
really
way,
funny if she fully wasn't.
yeah, right, right. I was like, was the Oneg last Shabbat?
No,
One day I should share with you the back end of that story,
of what story?
like my perspective in that conversation.
It wasn't our conversation.
Oh, well, there you go. Awkward.
It was the speech that you gave
Oh.
before the fast ended.
Oh, okay. So yeah, totally. Not all that I was thinking. In that conversation, whatever. It's still a cool story. It's still a cool story, but sure, that could be a good anchor. Um, wow. Okay, so that like it was scary for me because I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be so much like I dropped a lot of musser.
Yeah, well, yeah. That
Right. I
also
remember.
yeah.
I was like, this is like, I was debating whether or not, I'm like, you know what?
I
It's
know
gonna,
you but I too harsh.
yeah. Well, sometimes you just gotta go for it. Well. You win some, you lose some. Baruch Hashem, you're still here. Okay. So now we're at the top of page 199. Nevertheless, don't imagine that from now on you'll be able to fix all your negative character traits and elevate yourself spiritually even without investing work in the process. Another reason why I think people fail is because they're very intimidated by what it will take for them to be successful. People who are growth oriented don't get deterred by that. They actually get like really pumped up. Like when there's a new project for me to like work on myself, and I could speak for all of you because I know all of you and you're all very growth oriented, that like there's an excitement to take on a new project, where it's like, hey, I'm going to start something that's going to help me grow. Like there's excitement to it. But for some people who are not growth oriented naturally, they get intimidated by it. They look at it and they're just like, oh my God, that's going to require like a lot of effort.
I feel like this is a diss to me not wanting to do your workout program.
No,
A little bit.
no, because that doesn't matter as much. I'm talking about like spiritually. Like if you if
Okay,
you
good.
if you learned the topic of like something in first of all, you're not capable of completing that program, so we don't have to talk about it. But if you found something that you're like, oh my God, like you would get excited, like, oh my God, this is a challenge to like not speak Lashon Hara for X amount of time, or this is the Tznius challenge, or this is the whatever, you know what I mean? Like
It's
there's some people who
scary to
get
think of like there's no challenge to work on, so it's just like nothing's happening. I'm just saying like flat. Like that's
the
like
growth-oriented person loses their mind when they're stagnant, when they're dormant. They just want to be out there growing. They want to just like, and they get frustrated when it's not happening fast enough. It's a bracha. Like it's a huge bracha. There are other people who are literally just like, yeah, I would love to be that way, but like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of energy,
I
emotional
was thinking
energy.
about this year, like me and
Let's
Danielle
hit
have
this
school now,
meeting.
and what's it called? Like the first week, I like didn't start like working till like last week. So like for a week straight, I was doing nothing, and I was actually going crazy. Like I had no like, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna sleep in every day, whatever. Like I was like, oh, and then some days I would like try. It was a rough week.
It's a very good sign. There's some people who are just like, if you had 2 weeks off for winter break and you weren't going anywhere, what would you? I would sleep till 4 o'clock, wake up and do nothing all day with Netflix. It's just like, mm, no.
I was like rage baiting myself. Like I did those things, but then I was just like, oh my God, I did nothing today.
Yeah,
No,
you're
but
like,
like two
what
days
what
was fine.
what
But
is
then
my
like
life? Like, what am I doing here?
I
Like,
actually went crazy. I'm back. I've done stuff today.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Yeah, hey, listen, it takes to work on grow in any which way. To get to any which way possible, it requires a lot of work. It is a process. It is a process. I also like I think a lot of people don't go to seminary because they're like, oh my God, I know what seminary is gonna look like. It's not that it's a waste of time, it's just gonna be very hard work. It's gonna be like day in and day out learning and studying and strategy, like becoming a better person. That process, it's so much easier. There are really people like this. It's so much easier to just go straight to college, join a sorority, and like it just doesn't require any effort. It's fun. They're intimidated by the growth, but you can't whitewash it. Nothing comes easy in life, no matter what. Growth, certainly not as well. Don't make the shameful mistake because without work and the only thing we can do is waste away in the grave. It is only though that we can improve ourselves and become Jews, servants of Hashem. I like water on the rock. It says the mushal. You chip away at growth. If you're in a constant state of trying to chip away at the better version of yourself, time will pass. You'll turn around and be like, whoa, how I got so far up the mountain. Those who just are like, it's so much of a process, and they don't realize how much time you have so many years in your life. You can accomplish so much. Think about what you can accomplish in 4 years of high school, from 14 to 18. And then think about your life, like every block of 4 years. You know how many 4 year blocks you're gonna have for the next few decades? It's like crazy. It's the same amount of time. The muscle of TJ. TJ is 3 weeks. You accomplish so much in 3 weeks. How many 3 weeks do you have in your life, day in and day out? I know it's not exactly the same, but it's the same amount of time. Chabad preschool has a kid's story about Rabbi Akiva Rock. It's the
No,
cutest
the
thing ever.
story you're talking about, I just like they had like
It's
a
a
little
real,
kid.
it's a real story. We
Yeah, it's a
share.
real story, but it's like they had like a kid's book about it, and they're like, "Can you read it to us?" And it was the cutest thing ever. It was like an actual like, yeah,
Can
yeah,
you get it for my kids, please?
yeah,
Moshe shared the
sure.
story. It's one of my favorite stories I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's
Drip, drop.
water can pierce a rock. It's crazy. I mean, I use the Mount Swachot. I'm not going to say it again, but I use the Mount Swachot example about the compilation of baby steps, but that's what it is. What's more is this work cannot be sporadic. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Remember in the beginning, the first chapter, we talked about the spiritual seesaw. I want to get off. It has to be a constant. For the rest of your life, morning and night, you cannot let your mind be distracted from yourself and the task ahead of you. Now, that doesn't mean 24/7 because again, you got to be healthy, you got to be normal, you got to pace yourself. But it does mean at a constant, as in like big picture. Every day I'm checking in and making sure that those are still my core values and I'm working towards something. I'm not negating that. Not like, oh, this week and then that those people with that lack of consistency, they'll never be successful in this. It has to remain a constant. And if you do that, we can assure you that with Hashem's help, the task will become much easier, and you won't be like those people who, despite their good intentions of becoming true Jews, remain stationary in their entire lives. And then just before they die, they look at themselves and cry out, in what way am I bettering myself today than I was as a child? What time did sorry, what did I spend my time on all these years? But you using these tactics and similar stratagem, is that a word? Will, God willing, grow higher and higher from strength to strength. This is why the youth is wasted on the young. I know, Hadar, it's your favorite quote of all time. But he's highlighting this perfectly of what that means. When I went to visit my great uncle, my late great uncle, at his nursing home in Fort Lauderdale, it was amazing to see how like they made such a big deal about the high holidays. Now, a lot of them, secular Jews, and like towards the end of their life, they start going back to services and they start going back to synagogue. Why? Because at the tail end of their life, and they start to have this spiritual awakening. They know they're going to meet God soon, so they want to chaperein, you know? Well, God's around the corner, so I'm going to start whatever. Because the old people realize that, but they're old. And he's turning around now and telling you, and you're young. You don't have to make those same mistakes. You don't have to have those ragrats. You don't have to be old and look back and say, why didn't I? If you today, in your teenage years, start to chip away and develop at your future self, you are going to get there. You're going to get there. You're not going to have any regrets. You're going to use these tactics. You're going to continue to grow. You're going to always maintain that child, that positive child inside of you that looks up at your life and says, like, I can aspire to be anything I want. I can become anything that I want to be. You guys haven't lived a full life yet. You haven't even lived a fraction of your life. You've lived a tiny little, this is your life is beginning. You can set off your life in a way that you can help yourself grow in such a powerful way. We are not, oh, you know what? We could finish this chapter technically. We could. Let's do a little bit more.
Let's do it.
Let's do a little bit more. Let's try to, because I don't like the idea of finishing in the middle of a chapter.
I
In
agree.
addition, you can utilize various active strategies to help you work on yourself. Let's say you're talking about anger. Decide that whenever you feel angry welling up inside you, you will verbalize certain divrei Torah, such as it was taught in the Brisa of Eliyahu, whoever learns halacha on a daily basis is assured a place in the world to come. If you say anything that requires you to ponder it a bit, and that's even better for two reasons. Firstly, the Torah that you delve into will shield and save you from the desire to become angry. The second is that just as the way the body works, anger is sort of temporary, spur of the moment, insanity over one specific issue. And that's why it's so hard for a person to overcome it using rational thought. Because at the moment, his capacity for rationale, though it has been sidetracked by obsessive irrationality. That doesn't mean that the person has, God forbid, become mentally unstable. This insanity of losing yourself to anger only relates to a specific issue at hand, right? It's only because you're angry at that specific moment for whatever reason. Thoughts that are anti-angry that can lead a person to control his temper are useless because he is insane regarding this issue. However, other thoughts that are not focused directly on dissipating anger will help him regain his capacity for thought. For example, he can think of the divrei Torah as to not raise objections to anger. Once he has distracted his mind for a moment, his intellect has become focused on divrei Torah, the short-term insanity will leave on its own, and his rational thought process will have an easier time reasserting themselves, overcoming his anger, and gaining control so that he does not become angry. Now, what does that sound like to you? That, my friends, is a coping mechanism, right? A strategy to grow, and we talked about a lot of different strategies. If you understand what triggers you, why you act and respond the way that you do, what happens in that moment, right? What's happening with your body? How are you feeling? What's going on? What are those emotions? All that stuff. If you have a good grip, a good handle on that, then when you're not in that state of insanity, as he calls it, you're able to create a productive strategy with coping mechanisms of I coping mechanisms. I will not do this. In that moment, this is what I need to do. Whether it's focusing on my breathing, stepping outside and going for a walk, saying a certain phrase that I've been, practicing and working on or whatever it is to tip off my shomer, tip off the person who's watching out for me. That can, do like, my partner or my friend knows what I need in that moment, whatever it is. But to create those helpful and productive strategies and things like that, always a way to be able to chip and water on the rock, chip away at becoming the better version of yourself. For sure, for sure. Let's stop here. We will finish chapter 9 in 2 weeks, and then we will jump to chapter 13 to finish out the year. Shkech, any questions on this particular on what we said up until this point?
I'm happy we did this chapter. We almost I'm glad we didn't skip it. Good.
Yeah. The
Emoji.
last Oh yeah, hit the emoji, and then I just want to recap that one idea that we spoke about tonight that I think is very, very important.
Let's do sunglasses for summer because it's summer for me and Danielle.
Sunglasses or like the smiley face one?
Oh, ooh, like actual sunglasses. And you can throw it in Israel flag because like Yom Ha'atzmaut and controversial stuff.
And the controversial stuff. Yeah, the thing I want to end off on is remembering that bechira, that a person's free will, you have the ability to go on the offense, to go proactive and choose kedusha. To you have the ability to wake yourself up, and you can really do it at any time, not without any tools or resources, but you have the ability to do so. Hashem gave us that ability, so we're never stuck and we're never lost. Shkayach. All right, we'll end the recording and
We
then
will.
we will